came across this cool product slideshow animation on YouTube, created by Dope Motions. It looks amazing, but there's one thing, it was made in After Effects. So in this video, I'm going to recreate the same effect inside DaVinci Resolve, step by step. A big shout out to Dope Motions for the inspiration. Now, let's get started. Alright, first things first, let's establish our base color. Drag and drop a background node into your workspace. For this project, I want the color to match of an image, so I brought in a reference image. To pick a color, I'm dragging that image node to the viewer to take a look. Now, select the background node. Head over to the Inspector tab, and you'll see a color picker. Click and hold the color selection tool, it looks like a pencil, and sample the orange color directly from your image to get it just right. Now we no longer need the sample image, so feel free to delete the image node. Now, instead of using gradients directly, we're going to layer a second background to create a roughened edge effect. Grab another background node and drag it into your workspace. Let's set this one to white. The reason we're using two separate backgrounds, instead of just one with a gradient, is that it gives us more control in creating interesting, organic edges that are harder to achieve with just a single node. Let's define the shape of this second background. We'll use a rectangle mask node. Bring one into the workspace and connect it to the white background node. Now, in the Inspector tab for the mask, let's adjust the size. Set the width to 1 and the height to 0.25. This creates a band of white that covers approximately the below quarter of our canvas, leaving the orange exposed top. With the background node still selected, hit Ctrl+Space to bring up the tool search. Type Displace and add it to your flow. To control the displacement, we need something to drive it, so we will add a fast noise node and connect the output of this noise node to the displace node. Now, let's take a look at the fast noise node. We're going to pump up the detail and contrast to give our displacement more definition. In the Inspector tab for the fast noise, increase the detail, contrast, and size values until you're seeing a pattern that you like. This will determine the roughness of our edge. Connect the displace node to the viewer to see the changes. We can't see any change. To fix this, with displace node selected, go to Inspector and change the type to XY. And now increase a Y refraction to see a result you like. For me, I return to a fast noise node and change the size of a litter to make it beat for me. Alright, time to combine our two backgrounds. Take the output of the displace node and connect it to the first background node. This will automatically create a merge node. Now, if you view the merge node, you might only see the orange color. That's because the orange background is currently in the foreground input of the merge. To fix this, select the merge node and press Ctrl+T to swap the inputs. Now, you should see the orange background with the white band and its roughened edge. Now, this is where we'll add a little personality to our background. I have downloaded some overlay textures. If you want to make this a project along, you can also download it from the comment section. Connect this overlay to the output of the merge node. This creates another merge node, and this is our second merge. Let's see this merge in viewers, and let's change the mode to hard light and let decrease the value to around 20 to 30%. For me, this is good, and let's add a second overlay and make it the same as the first one. Connect it with the merge node output, select a new merge, and set the mode to highlight. But if you notice this small size, you can just adjust the size and it will be good. I don't like the position, so I adjust it also. Now you can decrease a value to around 20 to 30%. And for the halftone effect, I will make the same steps. For a final touch, let's tweak the lighting using a brightness contrast node. In the Inspector tab, you can subtly adjust the brightness, lift, and contrast to get the perfect look for your background. Now, take a look at the difference with and without the overlay nodes. Finally, to keep our node graph organized, let's group everything together. Select all nodes and search for an underlay node to tidy up your project. In the Inspector, select the underlay node, press F2 to rename it background, and adjust its color if needed. First, add a new background node to your project. In the Inspector panel, switch to the Image tab and uncheck the Auto Resolution option. This manual adjustment allows us to precisely control the dimensions. Set the width to around 500 pixels and increase the height to about 2000 pixels. This elongated canvas gives us ample space to work with. Next, Return to the Color tab. Change the background type from solid color to gradient. Now, configure the gradient by placing black at the top and white at the bottom. For the top color, set the starting position with x 0.5 and y equals 1. For the bottom, set the ending position with x equals 0.5 and y 0. We want our gradient to evolve over time. At the very first frame, insert a keyframe for the gradient's offset value and set it to 1. Then, move forward to approximately the 2-second mark and change the offset value to -1. Now, open the spline editor. Select all keyframes by pressing Ctrl+A and then press S to apply smoothing. This helps ensure the change in the gradient is gradual and natural. For even finer control, press Ctrl+T to bring up the ease value lock and set both ease in and ease out to 50%. This extra step creates a fluid motion that will be perfect for a relaxed, continuous transition. To add an extra layer of texture, we're going to include a scan lines effect. With the background node selected, press Ctrl+Space to open the node search and find the scan lines node. Once added, preview the effect by pressing 2. If you need a better view of the texture, switch the viewer to the gray channel. In the inspector, adjust the scan line settings. Try increasing the sharpness and adding more lines. Next, let's create a roughened edge to give our transition more character. Start by adding a rectangle mask. Then, press Ctrl+Space again and insert a displace node. It's important that you connect the rectangle mask via the yellow input rather than the standard mask input. Now, add a fast noise node and connect it to the displace node. Then connect the displace node to the background mask input node. Adjust the rectangle mask so that it covers the intended portion of your canvas. Lower the mask's Y position gradually to reveal the rough edge effect. In the fast noise node, you can modify parameters like detail, contrast, and size. Then, in the displace node, change the type to XY in the inspector and gently increase the Y reflection to around 0.1. These adjustments let you fine-tune the noise pattern until it matches your creative vision. If you observe any unwanted edge cutting, insert a transform node between the displace and background nodes and scale the image so that the entire frame is covered. This extra step ensures that no details are lost. Now we animate the appearance of the roughened edge. At the first frame, set the Y position of the rectangle mask so that the rough effect is completely hidden. As you progress to the 2-second mark, gradually adjust the Y value until the white color becomes fully visible. To ensure the animation feels natural, return to the spline editor and smooth the keyframes once more. This extra smoothing creates a continuous, slow reveal that feels organic and deliberate. After setting up the animated gradient and roughened edge, it's time to merge these effects. Add another background node and connect the output of the scan lines node to it. This action will automatically create a merge node. In the new background node, set the alpha to 0. Adjust the merge node's size and angle as needed. Then, go to the image section once more, uncheck auto resolution, and widen the image so it fully covers the frame. For a more dynamic feel, let's duplicate the transition. Add a duplicate node, and in the inspector, set it to create 10 copies of your current setup. Rotate these duplicates by setting the angle to 180 degrees. Carefully reposition them so that every copy is visible on the screen. And you have this animation right now. Now, adjust the time offset by setting it -3. This creates a subtle delay between each duplicate, adding depth and a staggered animation effect that enhances the overall visual appeal. To tie all elements together, add one more background node and connect it to the output of the duplicate node. In the resulting merge node, press Ctrl+T if necessary to swap the inputs, ensuring the layers stack correctly. Adjust the position of the merged layer until the transition effect spans across the entire frame smoothly. For a cleaner project layout, add an underlay node and rename it Transition in the inspector. This labeling helps keep your workspace organized and makes it easier to manage your layers later on. The final step is to integrate this transition effect with your main background. Insert a matte control node into your project. Connect the output of your main background to the primary input of the matte control node. Then, connect the final node from your transition effect to the garbage matte input. If nothing appears in the viewer, you might need to invert the garbage matte in the inspector. Additionally, set the alpha of the final background node in the transition to 0. These adjustments ensure the transition effect overlays perfectly. One important step is to select the luminance control node and, under garbage matte, change the channel to luminance instead of alpha, revealing the complete fluid effect you've created. Before we move on to the next part of our tutorial, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. First, we need to define the starting point of our text animation. After selecting the frame where the animation should begin, add a text plus node. In this node, type the word moving. I made an extra M by accident during a montage, but we can ignore that error. Next, change the font to Dharma Gothic, or any font that suits your style, and increase the size of the text for better visibility. To help with alignment, enable guides by right-clicking on the screen and selecting Show Guides, or press Ctrl+G. Adjust the position of your text so that it sits at the top of the screen and resize it so that its edge aligns with the top guideline. Now, let's animate the text. In the inspector, switch to the Layout tab. Set a keyframe with the text centered, then move it to the bottom of the screen. After about 20 frames, reposition the text to the top of the screen. At this point, add a background node and reduce its alpha to 0 to make it transparent. Connect the output of the text node to automatically create a merge node. Don't worry, I'll explain the purpose of this background shortly. For the next step, add a rectangle mask and attach it to the mask input of your text. Adjust the mask's width to 1 and shift it upward by setting the Y value to 0.75. This adjustment ensures that the animation is only visible in the top center of the screen, exactly as we want it. If you prefer the text to appear quickly at the start, open the spline editor and modify the graph so that the motion is fast at the beginning. Notice the improvement as the text animates more dynamically. Next, copy your text plus node and paste it. Connect the output of this copied node to the merge node along with the rectangle mask. Change the copied text to forward. If you find that the two text elements overlap, fix this by selecting only the keyframes for the copied text in the spline editor and pressing the A reverse button. This modification will ensure that the animation graph of the copied text starts quickly instead of starting late. Should the copied text not appear at the bottom of the screen because of the rectangle mask, simply select the copied text node in the inspector and apply an invert mask. This tweak ensures the animation flows smoothly as intended. Now, let's match the text color to the dominant color of your image. This is the reason we added the transparent background earlier. It creates a space for a brush effect on the text. Add your brush image to the mask input of the merge node. However, to prevent the brush image from moving along with the text, insert a transform node between the brush image and the merge node. To refine the motion further, open the spline editor for the first text plus node to view its motion path labeled Path 2. Then, select the corresponding transform node, right-click in the center, and connect it to Path 2 position. For the second text, whose motion path is labeled Path to 1, perform the same step with its transform node, connect it to Path to 1 position. If you notice that the brush image is moving with the text, but this not the result we want, so add another transform node in each merge and adjust the size and position until the brush effect look as desired. Finally, organize your node tree by selecting all nodes, pressing Ctrl plus space, and searching for an underlay node. Add this node to your project, rename it appropriately in the inspector, and change its color if needed. This final step tidies up your workspace and makes managing your layers much easier. Now, let's add our product image. I've chosen a Formula 1 car to our composition. Begin by importing your image and removing its background. For the image, I prefer using a polygon mask in DaVinci Resolve because it delivers a clean result. And I actually have a full tutorial on how to remove backgrounds in 4 different ways if you want more details. Once the background is removed, add a soft edge to refine the mask. To give your image an extra creative touch, import a brush image. This brush image will overlay your product image and create a visually engaging effect. Connect the brush image to your product image using a merge node. But first, we need to ensure the resolution of your image is correct. Connect this transparent background with your product image in a merge node. Make sure that the background node is in the background input of the merge node. Decrease the image size so that it fits perfectly within your canvas. Next, select the merge node connected to your brush image, change its operator to in, and set the apply mode to screen. Confirm that the background node remains transparent, alpha set to 0, to avoid any unwanted black regions. Adjust the size and position of the brush image to create a better visual balance with your product. Finally, drag a new merge node into the workspace and connect the final merge node from your image setup to the green input and the final merge node from your text animation to the yellow input. Also connecting it to the mask input of the merge node. Adjust the size of your image within this merge to ensure it fits your overall composition and looks just right. Finally, for a tidy and well-organized project, add an underlay node. Rename the underlay node to image in the inspector and adjust its color if needed. This step helps keep your node tree structured and easier to manage. Now that we have both our image and transition animation set up, it's time to merge them together seamlessly. First, insert a matte control node into your project. Connect the output of your transform node to the primary input of the matte control node. Then, connect the final node from your transition effect to the garbage matte input. When you want to connect it to the matte garbage entrance, press and hold Alt so you can easily choose the entrance. At this point, you might experience some lag in the playback. To make the editing process smoother, go to Playback Settings and reduce the timeline playback resolution to 1/4. This will help you preview the animation more efficiently. To see the line's effects in the car transition, go to Inspector tab. Under Garbage Matte, set the channel to Luminance instead of Alpha. If you notice that the effect is starting to reverse, invert the matte garbage in the Inspector tab and this will fix it. Now, if the animation starts immediately at the beginning of the timeline, we need to fix that because we want it to appear at the right moment. First, find the exact frame where you want the animation to begin. Once you have that, search for the time stretcher node and place it between the transition and the second matte control. Then go to the frame where you want the image animation to end. Note down the number of that frame and enter it in the time stretcher settings. This ensures that the animation starts and ends exactly when we want it to, creating a smooth and professional transition. And just like that, we now have our image and transition animation working together perfectly. Now, it's time to put everything together and create a smooth zoom-out transition for the final effect. To do this, we'll use 3D compositing. First, add 3 image plane 3D nodes and connect them all to a 3D merge node. Then, add a camera node and connect it to the 3D merge node as well. Now, take the 3D merge node's output and connect it to a render 3D node. Next, let's assign each element to its respective image plane 3D node. Connect the output of the first matte control node to the first image plane 3D. Connect the second matte control node to the second image plane 3D. Finally, connect the merge node that combines the text and image to the third image plane 3D. At this point, everything might look completely invisible, but don't worry, we'll fix that. Select the camera node, go to the Inspector tab, switch to the Transform tab, and increase the Z position value until the background fits properly within the screen. Now, the issue is that all the layers are positioned at the same depth, making everything overlap. To fix this, select the car animation layer and move it slightly forward in the Z direction. Then do the same for the text layer, but make sure it stays behind the car animation layer. If we preview the animation now, you'll notice the car looks too large in proportion to the text. To correct this, select the image plane 3D of the image transition and decrease its size. Then, do the same for the image plane 3D of the text. Ensuring the car fits perfectly inside the text shape for a seamless look. Now, let's add the zoom out effect to enhance the final animation. Select the camera node, go to the last frame of the animation, and set a keyframe for the Z position. Then, move to the first frame and set the Z position to 0. To make it look even better, open the spline editor and adjust the curve so that the zoom starts fast and then slows down smoothly. Now, the effect feels much more dynamic and cinematic. As a final touch, let's add a frame effect to the scene. First, connect a frame image to a new image plane 3D node and merge it with the 3D merge node. Then go to the Inspector tab, switch to the Transform tab, and increase the Z position value to make sure it's between the text and the image in Z direction. After that, view the render node and decrease the size so the frame sits correctly around the entire scene. Lastly, to enhance the overall look, add a vignette node after the render node. This will subtly darken the edges and make the animation feel more polished and professional. And that's it! We now have a fully animated dynamic text and image composition with a smooth zoom-out transition. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. See you in the next video.